I appreciate it, Brian, and thanks to all for giving us your time to hear us speak about this tool. A couple things that Brian mentioned that I want to reiterate really quickly is he mentioned the top performing regions, and you will see you saw the list there, and then you saw the response example that you got in the previous slide. And note that listing out top performing regions specifically for sections, you want to make sure that you use that not as like a competitive way, but as a collaborative way. So teaches you who to reach out to if you're struggling in some of those areas from that previous slide and say, well, what are you guys doing and how can we use it in our program? So I think that's a big piece of this, and which also is to my bigger subject of just collaboration in general across teams. We started with this tool from the very beginning because it was a very collaborative tool. The survey that you go through, the questionnaires that you go through, that is described here on this, just it's click, and answer kind of structure, and that's really convenient for those of you that ever tried it before. It should be very easy to follow. Not much has changed in that aspect, but what we're trying to do is make over time, make these self-assessments more collaborative, both for your team and across teams. And so you'll see some of the changes that we made are really to that effect. So when Brian mentioned earlier about the one self-assessment response per organization, that makes a lot of sense. But one of the things we added was if it just so happens that you did multiple ones, if you're in the same team, you can actually go and edit each other's. So you can make them combine. You can delete one and keep all the comments from the other, move the comments over to the other one and keep those in place. So you can, even without our help now, can go through and collaborate to answer those questions and make everybody's voice heard in the final self-assessment. Next slide, please. So the last year we added auto-saving responses, so it's nice compared to where we started, where if you navigate through the tool and you haven't saved your responses, at least it's going to ask you, do you want to save these responses? And as long as you say yes, then the database will be written so that you don't have to go back and you didn't have to miss a question or have some failure caused the saving to not work properly. So that seems to be functioning pretty well. So it allows you to go through part of the survey, stop, come back later and edit it and finish. It allows you to transition. Say maybe you have 3 team members that are all experts in different areas, champions of the strategic, the tactical, areas. And so you can actually you can save after strategic and allow them to come in and finish the tactical. So these are some new capabilities that are really nice to have. Once you submit the questionnaire finally, it will send you an email confirming that we have gotten all your responses, and that's your rough unofficial copy, if you will. That should happen, almost immediately, but at least within the first day. And then we begin the process of collecting those and for incorporation into the annual summaries. And that process is cut off at November 30th. So when we use this date, that's really what we mean, that the data submission, if you haven't done it by November 30th, you probably are not going to get into the annual survey. But it doesn't mean you can't submit it. But at the same time, remember, all of this process is voluntary. We just really appreciate the feedback and the consistency in doing this that allows us to generate really good numbers for FHWA to look at to see how the TIM program is progressing. Next slide. You have to start, as Brian said, you have to start with the registration process. If you've done this already, you click this link, you'll go to the page and you can log in. There's also a forgotten password section in there if you forget. It's pretty typical that you forget your password after nearly a year of not using this website, so that's no problem. Just click that link. It'll send you a way to reset your password. When you register, you follow that registration link that you see on the screen, and it'll ask you for some information like name and TIM affiliation and your password set and everything. Now we have to, the process has always been, we have to approve uh, the registration. So it's not an instantaneous, you get access. You have to wait till we approve that registration. And part of the reason is because we get a lot of spam attacks to the sites in recent years. So we neglect those. They can't register, so don't get flooded with spam. But if you set your system up right with the registration, and we kind of know who you are and that you're definitely a participant, we may reach out to you, make sure that that's true, but most likely it's, yeah, we can figure it out on our own. The TIM affiliation is really nice because now we have these as official groups that allows us to add you to the right groups immediately. But we'll talk about that process in a little bit too. So once you get logged in, you can see you got a profile that you can set your information and change your password if need be and all that stuff. You see that the overview dashboard has a bunch of different things like events, announcements, a basic calendar, and then the photos. We've mentioned before, photos are really nice to have. We've got some that were copyrighted by FHWA and that we were able to post on there. But if you have some from your own groups and you really want to post those as an example to use for traffic incident management purposes and training purposes, then send those to us. I think you can upload them yourself, but if not, you can just send them to us so we can upload them. You will see on the left the modules. The modules is kind of your navigation of what things you need to do. So when we talk about the photos, you click on the photos, that'll bring you over there. Documents and files is another important one that will have training slides like the ones that you see right now will be posted there. We also have the annual self-assessment from 23-24, which was it's not a published copy. It's more of an unofficial. This is what we submitted for publishing. And so FHWA has not given the authorization to publish that officially, but it gives you an idea of the numbers. The things that you saw on the slides will also be in that annual assessment. You will also now find under there, beginning with 23-24, are the submissions that the teams have made. They're all under permission control, so you don't get to see everybody's, but you do get to see all those, at least in your state or in your team, TIM team. And that will help you in those situations, which you say, well, I don't remember what we did last year. Well, you now, assuming you're part of the right group, that you're allowed to go back in there and view them now. The two main modules that you're interested in for doing the self-assessment are the new and the edit. So you always want to start with a new one for the year, for the season, if you will. You will go to that one to start a new self-assessment. You will, if you've already had one in place, it will automatically kind of say, hey, you already got one. This is the one you really want to edit, and then it will do that as well. But the edit feature now is, as standalone, has a good option that links you to your group. So remember what I said is if you've done multiple ones in that TIM group and you really want to be able to combine them of somehow or modify one and delete the other or whatever, then you could go to the edit link there, and that'll list out your everyone that you have permission for. So it's not just that you can edit your own anymore, but you can edit your TIM groups as well, which is a nice one. And I think FHWA even gets permission maybe to edit at an even bigger level, like for their region or state. So those kinds of things, again, increase the collaboration. Once you do a new assessment, you will see this opening screen, which allows you to set who has participated down at the bottom. That was the way it was done before. Previous years, we asked you to put your team name in there and your team description and your team state. All those used to be free form text, and you could still do that here, but you'll also notice the drop downs for the TIM names and then the TIM states. You'll be able to select which one your team belongs to. So for this particular self-assessment, remember everyone maybe for a different TIM region or a different even in the same TIM team. So you will be able to select those down, say this is for Caltrans District 4. Obviously, that's in the state of California. And if District 4 actually has different reasons why they might want two self-assessments for the, that measure different areas, like maybe I'm just throwing this example. I don't really know District 4, but let's say it's City of Los Angeles versus non-city limits or something like that. There are things like in North Carolina, triad. There may be some that you do for the individual cities and the triad in general. That may help, be able to assess each team at a more granular level. So that's the purpose of these three boxes. The two drop downs are very important. If your TIM team's name is not there already, then enter it in the free text box, and we will get it added as a group so that it'll show up on the drop down. So that's still a manual process. And that description field, of course, delineates between everything else. Then you start answering the questions. Once you click next, you'll go see this screen, which is the first set of questions. And this is just like Brian was describing. You will have a drop down, and then you'll be just able to click the answer. Again, the scores are based on what you answer here. You can kind of figure out they're ranked, but it's not about the ranking. We don't really want you to consider what's a 0 versus what's a 2. What we really want you to look at, which of these best describes your team. So you'll see in that blue shaded area, a TIM program is established by a single agency and is limited to 1 or 2 key initiatives. That if that's best describes you, that's the one you select for that question. And then the question color changes once you answer it from red to green, so that you'll see that you've answered the question. Next slide, please. You'll see here are the example red ones. This is the whole process of clicking that question 1, answering the question, and then and now in that case it was in question 4 was answered. You see at the back at the final slide there, the progression. Question 4 was answered, but the other 4 are incomplete. It doesn't like for you to try to submit the survey this way. So if you notice that it doesn't even want you to save it, but if you try to go next, it'll ask you if you can save it. But the idea is to do these sequentially, and then you can come back later and change them. But if you go ahead and go to the next slide and save your changes, then you have to go in and edit at some other point. So here's an example of we're trying to navigate past without answering all the questions. So we only had question 4 answered. And do you want to save changes? And we could say save. But again, the key is you can go back and answer the other 4 later. You can select cancel, just stay on that page and do that. You can click save, and then it'll go late. You need to come back later through the edit process and make those changes. Or if you discard, that's the only one that will not write the submission to the database. So if you click discard here, then it will throw away that one question that you answered. It does not discard the whole survey, just that page. So the online portal opens today. That allows you to, number 1, start right away to get registered. We can start building the TIM teams, because again, this is a newer concept. So they're not all there. We did some of them, but they're not all maintained well. Go into your profile and edit that TIM information. That could actually help us, because that'll be something we could read out of the database. The collection period then stays open through November 30th. Once that date passes, then we will start using that data to build up the annual survey. You can update anything before that date. If you update after that date, then maybe then it won't get reflected. So that's kind of a dangerous practice. Make sure you do all your updates and be done with the survey before November 30th. Once the submitter completes the questionnaire, you'll get that email that we mentioned. Even when you update something and made edits, you'll get another email. Um, so when we get everything post November 30th, some timely manner, we'll be sending back the reports back to you that have more detailed information, similar to that one slide we saw that lists the practical steps that you can take to increase your score in that section. That allows you to, again, collaborate with your team, collaborate outside your team to try to figure out some ways to improve those, especially if you're given tailored feedback. Brian will, or someone else on the team may give you some specific, say, hey, check this out. This is what others have done. And, hopefully you could take that into an action item. That's really why we're here to help. And then when those are all finished, we will generate the 25 annual report. When that becomes available, it will be first pushed to the online tool, as we just described, the unofficial for publication copy, until the federal government tells us that it's good to publish for real.